thank you for your question from Module 1.2. Here's how I would solve this. I put up the balance sheet equation, assets equals liabilities plus equity, and then I see how these different transactions influence this equation. On December 31st, X5, ABC Co. had the following ending balances which indicate how its assets were financed. The owner of ABC provided $1 of capital, so that must mean that we had $1 of capital, and it came from the owner. This is contributed capital from the owner. And when he did that, he had received 75% ownership. And I want to point out that just the amount they contribute may not necessarily indicate how much of the ownership of the company they are allowed to receive. That's based on their agreement. So someone might give more in capital than the percentage of ownership they receive, and that may be where you're getting mixed up a little bit. Uncle Joe invested $8 and only received 25% ownership. So the point I'm making is, although he gave more, the ownership percentage he received was less than the original owner who only gave $1. So just remember, these percentages are not necessarily the identical percentage related to the assets. It's the ownership that the owner received. It's the percentage they received as part owner. Local Kind Bank lent the company $7, so they received $7, and it has to be repaid later. That's going to be repaid next year, so we don't have to worry about this interest right now. It's kind of irrelevant. PV Electric Company provided $2 of electrical services, so that actually would be an expense which would reduce equity, and I'm going to just put it over here and show that as a minus equity, and you'll learn about the expanded accounting equation later. And it hasn't been paid yet, so we have a liability which would be electricity payable or utilities payable. Use the balance information above to compute the amount of ABC Co.'s assets. So here we go. We're going to add up our assets. That's $16 in assets. $9 of that was funded by debt, and then 9 minus the expense of 2, that would be a total of $7 equity. So I think where you may be getting confused a little bit is these percentages. Honestly, you can actually ignore the percentages because these percentages only relate to the owner and how much of the company they own. It doesn't determine the amount of assets over here. This is the assets he gave, and he got 75%. These are the assets he gave, and that he got only 25%, and that's just the way it is.